Hello and welcome. This is a presentation for global software engineering research. My name is Moritz Marutschke from the University in Japan. This project was conducted with Professor Victor Kryssanov, also from University, and Professor Patricia Brockmann from the Technical University in Nuremberg, Georg Simon Ohm. Well, the structure of this presentation is fairly straightforward. I will start with a background of the global software engineering course structure and a bit about the researchers conducting this project. Then moving on to a research method. This will be from the side of empirical analysis and quantitative questionnaires. Next, going to results, and this will be combined with a discussion explaining part of the results, taking into context, and finishing with the conclusions. So starting with the background, again, this will be about the global software engineering course structure, and then second, about the researchers. So the importance of a global software engineering course, or how to teach it, is to prepare or to better prepare students and especially engineers for the workplace. And some of those challenges are in multidisciplinary and multicultural environments. Now, the difficulties usually in providing such courses is that not all universities and not all departments have the facility to conduct such courses. And another big hurdle is to find collaboration partners to conduct these kind of classes. And in the case of the global software engineering on the Japanese side, so from University, is a problem-based learning course to simulate real-world scenarios more closely. And there is a slight distinction, sometimes called project-based, problem-based. Project-based to be understood more guided. So we have that for undergraduate software engineering courses, but this is more of a hands-on from the side of the students, where they get handed a problem that they have to work through, and the struggle is part of the process. During the semester, it's also important to identify learning challenges for students and to experience cultural differences and the resulting difficulties. So the researchers are in this for quite a while, combined 20 years of experiences in software engineering education. This research has been conducted for more than 3 years. So we're actually now just right now doing our fourth year of collaboration, and this is a master level course on both sides. Again, this is between Technical University in Nuremberg and Ritsumeikan University. And interestingly, the classes in Germany are, at least for this course, usually more homogeneous than the one on the Japanese side. And this is due to the course in Japan being an international course. So not only usually the Japanese culture would be considered one of the most homogeneous, but in this case, it's a mixture of mostly Asian, but again, different cultures and students from different cultures, from different countries. So next, about the research method. This is also twofold, so I will talk about the course structure and then go into the more quantitative idea of the questionnaire that is gathered for this project. The course structure is usually in form of normal distributed teams. So the general idea is that 10 or 20 students on both sides, the Japanese and the German side, would split up into 4 or 5 teams, and each of those teams are constructed of half in Japan and half in Germany. Now, we had a unique situation that was last year where only 4 students in Japan registered, but actually 28 in the beginning, but only 25 remained until the end in Germany. So the structure was, the course was restructured before the semester began into offshore teams and 1 requirements engineering team. So the German side was split into 4 teams, development teams, and the students in Japan formed 1 requirements engineering team. And only the students in Japan had contact with the customers. So customers in this case could be understood as people at university using university laboratory. And this was also one unique style of this project, where university laboratories are quite common in Japanese universities, where one professor has a computer or research lab where undergraduate and graduate students have their own desk and can do research. They also have regular seminars there. So a scheduling and management system is quite helpful. And the questionnaire was conducted in the following way. So the middle part, the global software engineering factors, are a set of factors which students have to rate on a standard Likert scale from 1 to 5 on their perceived importance before and after the semester. The surrounding factors were only collected after the semester to see if, for example, students already had some experience in software engineering, if something about the nationality and their English proficiency. There were also fields to fill in open comments. So next I'll be talking about the results, and first about the questionnaire result, the changing perception from before the semester to after the semester, and some empirical findings. So this is the overview of all the factors. We had only 4 students in Japan and 25 in Germany, of which 20 ended up filling out the questionnaire. So we considered for this discrepancy a bit the numbers that we're taking into account for this particular comparison. Numbers bigger than plus minus 0.75 on the Japanese side, and numbers bigger than plus minus 0.6 on the German side. And so this was comparing the difference of average. So the perception was going down in language differences for Japan, whereas in Germany this was rated much higher. So the importance of language difference shifted towards a higher degree. Usually this also has a correlation between proficiency in shared language, but this again could be conceived because of the very heterogeneous structure of course on the Japanese side, that they were already used to some cultural differences and also difference in language skills, whereas in Germany this was rated higher after the semester than in the beginning. For cultural differences as well, and this ties even stronger into the multicultural idea of a global course on the Japanese side and a more homogeneous structure in Germany. For communication between teams, this was considered very important on the Japanese side, as they had to communicate not only with the teams but also with the customers. So conveying basically the idea from the customer to the development teams or to the offshore team was perceived as more important after the semester than before. The drop in importance of software and hardware tools was numerically similar, but again, due to the number of students, we highlighted this on the German side, that many students in the beginning were hoping to rely on software solutions or hardware solutions, sensors, etc., to make the project easier, but this perception got lower on both sides, but a bit more significant on the German side. Now, for empirical observations, there are a few that are unique to this project, but some who we encounter year after year. So unique to this project was that the Japanese team was quite intimidated in the beginning. So to see 4 students in Japan and more than 25 on the German side was a bit putting pressure on the requirements engineering team. And one of the students from the Japanese side tried to establish himself as a leader with his prior experience, but adopted a more collaborative style throughout the semester. Interestingly, on the German side, there was an initial complaint about the offshore team being perceived as inferior. So some of those notions or preconceptions had to be shed as well, and was considered to be an interesting learning process by the students after the semester. In Japan, to avoid one of the requirements engineer team students to take a free ride, students were made responsible for one team in Germany. So we had 4 students in Japan, 4 teams in Germany. And at the beginning to the middle of the semester, it became clear that students on both sides were operating with different contextual background. So as mentioned before, the idea of a university laboratory is quite common in Japan. So notions of how you would enter university, do seminars and interact with students was quite normal, where this was a bit foreign to the German side. So some of those concepts had to be explained. And one pattern that is repeated basically every year is that towards half or the end of the semester, students complain about their respective teams or respective sides, low English proficiency. And this usually happens when the project has to be implemented, where the grades basically come into play. And after consulting with the instructors on both sides, teams usually and the projects come together around week 10. And this is a pattern that we see repeating regularly. And we already make students aware in the beginning of the semester, but usually after about half of the semester, we revisit that point and explain to the students and consult to get a more coherent structure. Then for conclusions, this will also be some specific notions and general observations. So for uneven student distribution, this can happen and was quite a, in a sense, ad hoc solution that we had to think about in the beginning of the semester. And we can say that it's possible to successfully conclude a project in global software engineering education with this kind of distribution. And students usually are frustrated during the middle of the semester, but after conclusion realize that this reflects a real-world scenario, and they value the knowledge and the struggle they had go through this semester. And a few general and also administrational points. Between the collaborating universities, it's good to compare schedules and also credit points to make a feasible project. So, for example, students in Germany get twice the credit as the ones in Japan. So the grading is usually to be handled by the instructor on each side, and could be amended by additional reports or oral presentation, etc. And we're found to have 12 weeks of overlap is quite enough to finish a project. And this is usually with some overhead in the beginning and the end. So we usually have 15 weeks in Japan, and if 12 of them overlap with the collaborating university, that is a good time frame for a successful project. Then often case there are unforeseen problems, and the usual ones are technical problems, connectivity problems, Wi-Fi problems. So it could just be about where students would find a place to communicate safely and without distraction with their peers. But in this case, it was quite more, in a sense, overhead, as we had to think of a new structure of the course due to the discrepancy in students' distributions. So flexible solutions should be should be foreseen and adopted as much as possible. One of the more important points on a note to instructors is to keep in regular contact. So establishing trust was found to be one of the most important factors. And this is now one of the longest running collaboration for both universities, as it is usually very difficult to keep it running for more than 1 or 2 years. So this will conclude my presentation. Thank you, and I look forward to engaging questions and hopefully to exchange also at the conference. Thank you.